All the products that we certify, we're trying to ensure that they help to reduce triggers in the environment and also that they can positively impact indoor air quality, because we just want everyone to be breathing healthier air indoors, you know?
Well, today I've got Leah McInerney with me today. She is the Global Client Success Manager at Allergy Standards Limited. Welcome, Leah.
Thanks so much. It's so great to be here in Chicago. I kind of can't believe it. It's a real pleasure.
Yeah, you flew all the way from Dublin, Ireland just to be here on this podcast today. That's amazing.
Yeah, so Allergy Standards, the company that I work for, we're based out of Dublin, Ireland, but specifically the certification program that I work for and the clients that I support, a lot of them are US based. Yeah. So we have our certification program is global, but a lot of the work that I do is with the US clients. So getting to be here and meet all of the various clients over the next week and a half is a real joy.
So part of your guys' logo here, AFA.org, what does that mean?
Yeah, so AFA are the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, and they're a huge and important part of our certification program. So obviously, you can hear the Dublin accent. We're based out of Dublin, Allergy Standards, but we're actually partnered with the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America. So it's a very unique collaboration. I think it's the only one of its kind worldwide from a certification perspective. So obviously, we've developed all the standards that underpin the program, and our company is responsible for getting the testing done. But AFA are based here. They're, I think it's 70, 80 years old, and they are the largest community for people living with asthma and allergies in the US. So they do a lot of work on education, giving materials to people, helping them to manage their asthma and allergies, and also do a lot of advocacy on the Hill. So they're always looking for better policies for asthma and allergies. So they're a huge, very important part of what we do. And they also have a couple of incredible initiatives that the certification program is very involved with, one being HEAL, which is the Health, Equity and Leadership program. So basically they have these donation programs where they really want to set families up to succeed in underserved communities. So we've got the opportunity for certified products to basically be available for these families and help them to, I guess, really manage their triggers in the home. So the work that they do is really invaluable and a very important part of our certification. So we're delighted to be partnered with them.
So you guys lead this program.
Yeah.
You certify products, asthma and allergy friendly.
Yeah.
We'll talk about what that means, I guess, and what you're doing. But I'd love to kind of understand sort of, what's your story? What's your personal story? Like, how did you get into this business?
Yeah.
Like, what did you do before?
So I did commerce and marketing in college a long time ago now in a beautiful area about 2 hours from Dublin called Galway, which I think when a lot of people that are living in the US picture Ireland, I think they actually really picture Galway. It's the cobblestones, it's the Irish pubs, it's all that good stuff. But so I did commerce and specialized in marketing. And then for about 5 to 7 years, I worked a lot in kind of key account management, helping brands to be represented on Amazon and like really helping them build their brands and sell well on that platform. Yeah. And it was a really interesting job, a lot of marketing, learning a lot about how the Amazon algorithm works, which is a whole thing in itself, but it's crazy how automated. I think we think about AI now, but even then it was very hard to be able to talk to an actual person. Yeah.
Did you know Jeff?
I did not.
Okay. I didn't know if you knew what he was like or if... I'm assuming, I just imagine it's just Jeff Bezos doing this with levers and old-timey, like the Wizard of Oz, basically.
Yeah, it's hard to speak to a real person, which at times can be a little bit challenging. But I did that for 5 to 7 years and I really enjoyed it, but I kind of felt like I needed to do something different. I was ready for a change. And I took a little bit of time off work. I did some traveling around Europe and just, I think being in the same role for nearly 7 years, I was like, I want to really think about what I want to do now and what's next and take a bit of a break. And in doing that, I kind of realized I really wanted to do something that makes a difference. So I hadn't marketing, sales, it's great. Makes the world go round. We all need to make money.
We got to learn about those products somehow.
Exactly. But I kind of decided that I wanted to do something that made a difference. Yeah. So, I was looking for jobs. I was looking for something that I guess I could still utilize the skills that I have, but also I really, again, wanted to do something that would make a difference. So I got the opportunity to interview for this role. And I remember looking at the CV and I just, when you get that feeling, I was like, this is it. This is for me. This is the next thing. I was learning so much about the company. And I also have asthma and allergies.
Yeah.
So, and it's a growing epidemic worldwide, but particularly in Ireland, there actually is a lot of asthma and allergies. We have better air quality, I would say, than the US for sure, but it's still a really growing problem in Ireland.
And the timeliness of this conversation is very interesting, as the forest fires in Canada, we have like the worst air quality right now in Chicago as we speak, literally. So you guys, perfect timing to come over here and have this conversation. But so the air quality situation is pretty global.
Yeah, it's a global problem. So I was like looking at the spec and researching for, applying for this job, and I just had this kind of feeling of like, this is what the next thing is for me.
That's awesome.
So I'm in the role nearly 2 years now, and basically what I do is I manage all of our clients that get certified. So they undergo independent scientific testing to get our certification. We're an independent certification, so companies that come to us and want to get certified, it's very clear that better indoor air quality, reducing triggers is a key component of their brand, and they really want to offer healthier products for people. So they have to come to us and say, we want to get this certification. So once they've undergone independent testing and met all of our standards, we have over 50 different standards that we test products against across all categories. I think there's no mistake that we have seen a real increase in air purification products because of what we're talking about, the increased weather events of, the wildfires, the hurricanes, the floods. What's constant in all of them? It's air quality. Sure. So we have seen a real increase in that category specifically, but we have over 50 different standards that we test products against.
And what are the type of products that you would typically get
so we have
certified?
So we have a lot of air purification companies that are in our program. HVAC systems are very important. Obviously insulation in terms of healthy building materials, flooring, paint, looking for really low VOC paint, particularly in a commercial setting where people want to get back to service as soon as possible. If we're talking about people that are in hospitals or in senior living facilities, they need to be able to get back in and get the care they need as quick as possible. So, ensuring that their paint is low VOCs, there's no, crazy chemicals present is really important.
Is there anything that you won't certify? Would you certify like the Sears Tower? Or like this coffee mug?
Well, the only thing is, how could we affect allergen levels from that coffee mug? Is there anything in that coffee mug that would hold on to allergen? Bacteria and viruses is a different thing altogether.
Totally different. Okay, got it. All right. But
anything that we can test.
Now my mustache probably has collected lots of pollen from outside today and brought it inside.
Yeah. Have you given it a little?
Could you certify that?
That's a question. That's a question for the scientists.
That's where you draw the line. Yeah. By the way, we should mention that this is highly scientific, and there's a lot of science behind this. What you guys are doing, and the testing part of this. Is pretty. Well, it's pretty intense. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor, but I know that our client, and one of the reasons why we know each other, we have this shared client, Knauf Insulation. So you mentioned building materials, and obviously specifically like things like HVAC systems in hospitals. And you have insulation in those applications, and so that stuff touches the air we breathe, right? And then so they obviously, Knauf has they want to be the quality products. They want to be helping to co-create sort of healthier living spaces. And so they went through this third-party testing, which is pretty intense. But can you give me for the people who aren't scientists and doctors, like kind of generally what's that like, or what is that test doing?
Yeah, so we do have different tests for each of the categories,
products,
but if we're just looking at insulation for a minute, the most important thing is when we test is looking at the VOC, so the volatile organic compounds. So that's the chemicals that are off-gassed from a material. Right. So again, there is a bit of an education piece on that. Some people don't think about that. So we're even the term volatile organic compounds, we're trying to kind of break that down into a digestible, understandable language for the everyday person. But we're really testing to make sure that those chemicals that come off, we test them, straight after the product's been applied, and then also 14 days, just to ensure the initial chemicals that are there and then how much they reduce over that 14-day period. So we have very strict guidelines that they have to. If those VOCs are higher than that level, then it's not going to pass our criterion. Right. Yeah.
And the types of those, those things would be like, so off-gassing, for example, like when people, I'm trying to think of experiences that we've all had, like that new car smell. is an example of off-gassing, right? Like that's not just like, oh, that's a fresh car.
No, I know.
There's actually some things there we're breathing in.
That's all the chemicals
right?
that we don't actually want to be breathing in, which is like, it's such a shame because we have such a positive mental association with that new car smell.
It's a brand new car.
Yeah, that's all the chemicals you don't want to be breathing in. Yeah, exactly.
But an example of what you're talking about, right? We're breathing in these things that come out off of these materials that maybe we don't really think about.
Yeah, completely.
Because they're new.
Exactly.
But new doesn't mean good.
Exactly. So we want to make sure that the off-gassing is at a very low level. Yeah. It's not going to cause any harm to anyone within the space. We also look at the particle evaluation of the particles that are released into the air. They also need to be at a very low level to ensure that they're not going to, affect anyone. They're not going to cause any triggers of asthma or allergies in the home or have a negative impact on indoor air quality. Everything that we do, all the products that we certify, we're trying to ensure that they help to reduce triggers in the environment and also that they can positively impact indoor air quality, because we just want everyone to be breathing healthier air indoors,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so you kind of have, obviously you've got this sort of, purpose, in the work you do now, and you mix that with your marketing background, right?
Yeah.
And part of this with a company like, Knopf, and they have a portfolio, Performance Plus, they're getting this whole portfolio. The idea is to have it all certified, so it's that formaldehyde-free product portfolio that's really the one of its kind, and obviously the certification is what is kind of that proven test that says, hey, this is formaldehyde-free. This is for you if you want to create healthier spaces. And then there's the marketing side of that, getting the word out, right? Like helping people understand the value, some of the science, because there is education. Not everybody knows this stuff.
Yes.
Like they don't know. I think we get it more and more as the wildfires are out there and pollen's going around and we're bringing it inside and we're dealing with asthma and allergies. But there is some education, and then there's the getting the word out part. So I guess what I wanted to hear from you, looking back, we just went through sort of launching this product as an example, using this certification as kind of like, this is the big news.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that helped make that product launch a success when we're thinking about other companies who are looking into getting certified if they want to do that? Like, what are some of the things that you look back at?
Well, I think the key thing firstly was launching the certified products with the asthma and allergy as the key kind of messaging for the brand. I think it's a really strong message to lead with. I think having that from day dot, and then also bringing in all the various partners, so bringing in Fungi, bringing in Tell Your Story, bringing in Legacy as well recently, to really educate everyone firstly before we even created this campaign and helped you guys to succeed with it, making sure that everyone has a clear understanding of what the certification means, a great understanding of the testing that's been done and how it's a benefit to, whether it's someone in work, someone at home, whether we're looking at commercial or residential, because we've obviously had really successful launches in both of those sectors. I think bringing everyone in, educating all the teams, and then having, I guess, really robust materials that the various partners can utilize to bring that brand story to life. Right. So I think a great example of some of the work that you guys have done, is a key thing on beyond the testing is really speaking to those statistics, speaking to, unfortunately, the worsening problem of poor indoor air quality and asthma and allergies. Over 100 million people in the US are living with asthma and allergies.
Sure.
10 people die every day from asthma, which is a crazy statistic, And none of this is to negate, if people need medicine, people need medicine. But that's not to say that there's not things that we can do every day in our home that can make our day-to-day life a little easier, that can bring down those triggers,
Right.
So yeah, really leaning into those statistics. We spend 90% of our time indoors, and the indoor air is up to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air. We've just spoken about how poor the outdoor air quality is.
Right.
So imagine what we're bringing in. And we're versed on outdoor air quality. We know, we all get the alerts on our phone.
Right.
So again, it is a bit of an education piece to say,
actually, it's way worse indoor. Yeah,
exactly.
But I think it's obviously, people understand the outdoor more because it's talked about more, and pollution and that sort of a thing. But to really compare it like that and understand that that can be bad, but this is actually much worse. And here's why. And products that we use indoors are all contributing factors.
Yeah, but I think what Fungi and Tell Your Story have done really well is tell that story, is incorporate all those statistics, those video assets. I think video is so impressionable on people.
Yeah.
I think people, you know, they really resonate when you're telling them something and there's a video and it's, I don't know, I think it goes a little deeper than just reading, say, you know, a marketing message or an article. And I think you guys have really leaned well into that. And I think as well, you know, if we even look at trade show presences that have happened over the last year, leaning into that messaging, some really cool initiatives that have been done. Like I know we spoke about the oxygen bar as just highlighting on the importance of, you know, just breathing clean air. Yeah.
Like where people are experiencing it and they're kind of interacting with the message too. It's not just a statistic, for example, even pairing all those things together. And you kind of mentioned the video. I think one of the things too that we saw resonate a lot is just pairing all of that with real stories of real people.
Yes.
Right? Because it's like we all know somebody who's dealt with asthma or allergies. Like think about my wife who's like, you know, allergies season is just absolutely the worst for her. And I've, you know, even going through this experience myself and being a part of telling the story, I've never taken a closer look at every single thing that's in my house and, you know, updating and looking at products and understanding, you know, but really hearing from real people that deal with it and how it affects their life, I think is a powerful way too to get that kind of message out. People emotionally connect with it. Yeah,
and I'm sure you've probably spoke to our CEO, Dr. John McKeown, about this before, but obviously the origination of the program was that, you know, he was working in ER. He was working in ER and seeing children coming in all the time that had asthma attacks and just mums that were at their wits' end, you know, and they're like, what can we do here? Like, there's got to be something. I'm having to come in all the time. My daughter's having an asthma attack. Is there anything that we can do beyond medication? Is there anything that we can do at home that can help, you know, reduce those pollen levels, make sure that there's no, you know, products that are high in chemicals that are actually exacerbating, you know, how that person is feeling. And that was when he kind of had that light bulb moment of being like, you know, because he's obviously a doctor by trade, but he's also an entrepreneur.
Sure, yeah.
So he's like,
but connecting those dots it's powerful.
Completely.
Thinking about like, okay, sometimes, you know, I know doctors are impacting maybe one person at a time, and that can be really amazing and super vital. But then, can you scale that, and can you impact even more people? By bringing that entrepreneurship part of you, and which I think is super cool.
Yeah, and I think if you were to go and speak to someone who suffers with their asthma or allergies, or they have to take an antihistamine every day, or they have to take their inhaler, say Ventolin, that's what I have to take, that if you looked at every room in their home, because it's a whole home approach, like we've just spoken about the fact that we test products in all those categories, it's not one thing that's going to be the solution. It has to be a holistic approach. So if we were to go to that person's house and say, okay, you know, what flooring do they have? You know, do they have a really, really long pile carpet that's potentially, you know, absorbing all the allergens? When was the last time they vacuumed? Are they vacuuming enough? Could they maybe benefit from a hardwood floor potentially? You know, what paint are they using? Are they using, you know, a paint that's, you know, probably higher in VOCs than it needs to be? Are they using air purifiers? You know, are they using extractor fans in their bathroom or when they're cooking? If you were to like go room by room and make some suggested recommendations of products that have been tested and are just going to be better for your environment, it would be very interesting to see the improvement on their well-being.
You know, your health of your asthma and allergies that you're dealing with, it's just incredible the amount of
side effects.
Oh my gosh, things, and we're just starting to kind of, it seems like the general public's, you know, learning more and more, but still has some education there.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, I just spoke to like the healthy home approach, but we have seen a lot of awareness and growth in that commercial space, particularly around that. Like over 13 million school days are missed annually in the US because of asthma attacks, or, you know, a bad allergy day where you might not even be able to open your eyes because the pollen levels are so high, you know.
Crazy.
That's on the more extreme side. But yeah, I think particularly for schools and for healthcare and senior living, ensuring that there's healthy building materials installed is so important, you know. And I think, you know, collectively on both campaigns, I think we've really effectively told that message of the importance of those healthy building materials, you know, speaking to those over 13 million days, speaking on a 61% increase in cognitive performance if your indoor air quality is good. I think we've all been there, you know, when you are in an office and it's 3 p.m. and you might have that kind of 3 p.m. slump and you go for a coffee.
For me, that's about 10 a.m. 3 p.m. is a little later in the day. Usually I'm asleep by then. But yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you kind of feel like your brain is just completely gone. And it's like, that's because of a lack of fresh air.
Sure.
You know what I mean? In your space, it's like, is your window open? You know, is there, when was the last time the HVAC filters were changed? You know what I mean? There's like...
It's like when people are like, I gotta go out, I gotta go get some fresh air.
Yeah.
Where? We're gonna do that. You need an oxygen bar at home.
Yeah.
Well, one more question just on the marketing side. When we think about, like, you guys have worked with different brands, different companies, right? And you think about some of those moments where they really were able to sort of get that message out. And in fact, you mentioned, you know, leaning into statistics and leaning into the case for, like, why the education component.
Yeah.
Are there any kind of highlights that, you know, if you're a brand that's getting certified, that you look back at those marketing campaigns that worked, even not just with Knopf, but like with other examples that come to mind?
I think like a key component of our program as well is the thought leadership angle. So like really focused on spreading the message of indoor air quality and education. Obviously, our background and you know the founders of our company are very involved in a lot of the really important scientific communities. They're evolving these standards all the time, and they're really at the forefront of, you know, legislation, indoor air quality management. You know, what are we doing from a very high level to improve our day-to-day, you know, so they're able to feed that information into all of our clients and really arm them to succeed and help them to position themselves as leaders in the IAQ space, you know.
Sure.
Like a good example with that would be last year, obviously the great event that we did for ASHRAE Summer Conference, where we had Dr. Jerome Adams speak and do a fireside chat
with... That was a huge hit.
With Knopf. And, you know, Dr. Jerome Adams, obviously former administration, but such an advocate for indoor air quality, particularly for underserved communities, and also for schools. Like he's really focused on, you know, indoor air quality and helping to manage asthma and allergies for people that need it most. Right. So I think that was a great example of an event that went so well that I think really highlighted Knopf as like kind of in the forefront of that space in terms of innovation and offering healthier insulation for setting a standard in the industry, I would say.
Yeah. And that was a great event because I know that it was a big success for Knopf because we had that event, we had that moment at that conference. We also captured that on video.
Yeah.
We brought that across social media, and there was certain placements and things. So I think that's a good example of like, how do you sort of capture that, like bottle up kind of that magic in the bottle and then sort of get that message out across all the different platforms as well. So for people who are thinking about, you know, how do you get the word out there? It's like, captured on video too, broadcast it across social, on the website, don't just leave it at the event.
Yeah.
You know, there's the before, during, and after, so.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm gonna switch gears for a second.
Yeah.
This is a question I ask everybody.
Okay.
And I'll give you a minute to think, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but what is one word or phrase that we should no longer use in the workplace? What comes to mind?
That we should no longer use.
Some people go to jargon, business jargon. Some people think, I just hate that word and I don't like it when I hear it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like what comes to mind is probably slightly on the negative side.
Oh, good. Yeah.
But it's like when you're in a meeting, or, you know, I think we've all been there, where someone says, "Oh yeah, we'll circle back on that."
We'll circle back. So are you gonna get in a circle and you're gonna come back?
That circle, we never circle back. You know?
Yeah, you never circle back, or that just goes in a circle forever and it never stops.
I'm trying to think there was something on the more positive side of the scale, because I feel like that's a little negative.
Well, I think that's the whole point of the question is like, we got to stop using that phrase because it's kind of a goofy thing.
Because I think, in reality, I think sometimes when people say we'll circle back, they either don't know the answer, which is sometimes you don't know the answer to every question, and that's fine. Or I
know the answer to every question, so I never have to circle back. My advice to you is to know everything, because that way you never have to circle back. That's one way to avoid using that phrase. But yeah, they don't know, so they have to say circle back. Or what else? What's the other circumstance?
But imagine if they were just honest and said, I don't know the answer to that. You know, that would be like refreshing. Yeah. I think we're conditioned to think that we need to know the answer to every question, and that, you know, there's a bit of, you're supposed to know everything, but you can't possibly know everything. And I think it will be refreshing. But we're all learning still every day of our life. And that's kind of beautiful. I don't want to ever know everything.
Yeah, it's weird to know everything. Yeah. Like, who knows everything? There's a lot of know-it-alls.
I don't know if I'd want to know the person that knows everything.
Yeah, and I was joking earlier. I don't know everything. I don't know that many things at all, actually. I did learn a lot about what you guys do and the impact in asthma and allergies, and I really appreciate you sharing all that with us today. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Well, so did I. Thank you so much for bringing the story of our certification to life. I think, the position that we have with the various partners that have been involved in this campaign, we don't have it with everybody. And I think the success that we've seen in the last year is a true reflection of everyone's, commitment, all the different players coming to the table with ideas and really leaning into the education, believing in our certification, and really everyone wanting to make a difference. I think that's how it's worked so well. So thank you.
You bet. And if you know what, start looking, you've probably seen it. Make sure you've got this logo on your products, on your insulation, or on your consumer products, whatever it is you're buying, because then you know that it's certified. And if we're doing our job right, we're getting the word out there, and you're going to see it more and more. So awesome. Leah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure.
All right.
Thanks.
El Final.